My controlling mother-in-law has been trying to dictate how I run my house, but my husband and I set boundaries, and things are slowly improving. Hey Reddit, this is my first time posting, but I need some advice and maybe just a place to vent. I'm a newly married woman, 25F, and I should be in the honeymoon phase, right? Well, not exactly. My husband, John 28M, and I have been married for about 6 months now. And while our relationship is great, there's one major problem: my mother-in-law, Diane. Diane has always been a bit overbearing. She's the kind of person who believes she knows best about everything, and unfortunately, that includes how I should run my own home. Ever since we got married, she's been constantly involved in our lives, coming over unannounced, criticizing the way I do things, and trying to take control of every aspect of our household. It's starting to drive me insane, and I'm at a loss for how to handle it. John and I have been together for about 3 years before we got married, and for the most part, everything was great. We had a healthy relationship, and he's always been supportive of my career and goals. He's a wonderful husband, and I feel lucky to have him in my life. However, even before we got married, I noticed that Diane was very involved in John's life. She would call him multiple times a day, asking about every little detail of his life, and she had strong opinions about everything he did. At first, I thought it was just a close mother-son relationship, but as time went on, I realized it was more than that. Diane had a way of inserting herself into every decision John made. When we were dating, she would constantly ask about our plans, where we were going, and what we were doing. She had opinions about everything from where we should live to how we should spend our weekends. It was clear that she had a certain vision for John's life, and she expected him to follow it. I tried to be understanding. After all, John is her only child, and I figured she was just being protective. But as our relationship got more serious, her involvement became more intrusive. She started showing up at John's apartment unannounced, bringing over food and helping him clean. She would reorganize his kitchen, do his laundry, and even go through his mail. John didn't seem to mind, but it bothered me. I felt like Diane was crossing boundaries, and I worried about what it would mean for our future. When John proposed, I was over the moon. We were both so excited to start our lives together, and we immediately started planning the wedding. But as soon as we announced our engagement, Diane became even more involved. She insisted on being a part of every decision, from the guest list to the venue to the flowers. At first, I was happy to include her. I wanted her to feel like a part of the process. But it quickly became overwhelming. Diane had strong opinions about everything, and she wasn't shy about expressing them. For example, I had always dreamed of having a small, intimate wedding with just close family and friends. But Diane wanted a big, extravagant affair. She insisted that we invite all of her extended family, even people I had never met. When I tried to push back, she would guilt-trip me, saying things like, "But this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Don't you want to share it with everyone?" John, bless his heart, tried to mediate, but it was clear that he didn't want to upset his mom. He kept telling me, "It's just one day, let's make her happy," and I reluctantly agreed. But deep down, I started to feel like I was losing control of my own wedding. The day of the wedding was beautiful, but it wasn't exactly what I had envisioned. Diane had her fingerprints on every detail, and while I tried to focus on the joy of marrying the love of my life, there was a part of me that felt resentful. I couldn't shake the feeling that Diane had hijacked my special day. After the wedding, John and I bought a house together. It's a cozy, 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood, and I was so excited to make it our own. But, of course, Diane had other plans. As soon as we moved in, Diane started coming over regularly to help us get settled. At first, I appreciated the help. Moving is stressful, and it was nice to have someone around to lend a hand. But Diane quickly took over. She started reorganizing our kitchen without asking, moving things around to where she thought they should go. She rearranged our furniture, saying it would look better her way. She even criticized the paint colors we had chosen, suggesting we repaint certain rooms to brighten them up. Every time I tried to assert my opinion, Diane would dismiss it. "Oh, honey, you'll see that this way is better," she'd say with a patronizing smile. "Trust me, I've been doing this for years." John, again, didn't seem to mind. He kept saying that his mom was just trying to help and that I should let her do her thing. But it was driving me crazy. This was supposed to be our home, a place where we could build our life together. Instead, it felt like Diane was trying to mold it into her own image. The worst part was that Diane started showing up unannounced. She had a key to our house, something John had given her without asking me, and she would let herself in whenever she pleased. I'd come home from work to find her in the kitchen, cooking dinner or cleaning up. It made me feel like a guest in my own home. I tried to talk to John about it, but he just brushed it off, saying, "She means well. She just wants to make things easier for us." But it wasn't easier for me. It was suffocating. The breaking point came about 3 months into our marriage. Diane had come over one weekend while John was out running errands. I was in the living room, trying to relax, when I heard her in the kitchen, rearranging things again. I took a deep breath and went into the kitchen to talk to her. "Diane," I said as calmly as I could, "I appreciate your help, but I'd really like to keep the kitchen the way I had it." She looked at me like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Oh, sweetie, you don't need to worry about this. I've been running a household for over 30 years. I know what I'm doing." "I'm sure you do," I replied, trying to keep my frustration in check. "But this is my kitchen, and I'd like to organize it my way." She gave me a tight smile. "Of course, dear. But you'll see that this way is better." That was it. I couldn't hold back anymore. "Diane, I need you to stop," I said, my voice shaking. "This is my home, and I want to run it the way John and I see fit. I need you to respect that." Her smile faltered, and she looked genuinely surprised. I'm just trying to help, she said, her tone defensive. I know, I said, taking a deep breath. But sometimes it feels like you're trying to control everything. I appreciate your help, but I need space to make this house my own. Diane didn't take it well. She started crying, saying that she was only trying to be a good mother and that she didn't understand why I was being so ungrateful. It was a complete guilt trip, and I felt awful, but I knew I had to stand my ground. When John came home, Diane immediately ran to him, telling him how I had attacked her. I tried to explain my side, but John was caught in the middle, trying to calm his mom down while also trying to placate me. It was a mess, and I felt like I was the villain. After that incident, Diane gave me the silent treatment. She stopped coming over as much, and when she did, she barely spoke to me. At first, I was relieved. I thought maybe she was finally giving us the space we needed. But the tension between us was palpable, and it started to strain my relationship with John. John was clearly upset by the rift between his mom and me. He didn't say much, but I could tell it was weighing on him. He started spending more time at his mom's house, trying to smooth things over with her, and I began to feel like I was losing him. I knew I needed to talk to John, but I wasn't sure how to bring it up without making things worse. I didn't want to force him to choose between me and his mom, but I also couldn't keep living like this. Finally, one night after dinner, I sat John down and told him how I was feeling. I explained that I didn't want to push his mom out of our lives, but I needed her to respect our boundaries and give us space to build our own life together. John listened, and to his credit, he was understanding. He admitted that he had been avoiding the issue because he didn't want to upset either of us, but he realized that things couldn't continue the way they were. He agreed to talk to his mom and set some boundaries. The next weekend, John and I went to Diane's house to talk. I was nervous, but I knew it was necessary. John started the conversation by telling Diane that while we appreciated everything she had done for us, we needed her to respect our space and let us run our household the way we saw fit. Diane didn't take it well. She cried, saying that she was only trying to help and that she didn't understand why we were pushing her away. She accused me of turning John against her and said that she felt like she was losing her son. John tried to reassure her, telling her that we still wanted her in our lives, but that we needed to establish some boundaries. He told her that she needed to call before coming over and that we needed her to stop trying to control how we ran our house. It was a tough conversation, and Diane was clearly hurt. But John stood firm, and I was proud of him for standing up for us. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right thing to do. After that conversation, things started to improve. Diane respected our boundaries, at least for the most part. She still had her moments where she tried to assert her opinions, but John was good about reminding her that we needed to make our own decisions. It's been a few months since that conversation, and while things aren't perfect, they're better. Diane still has her moments of overstepping, but John and I have learned to handle it together. We've had to set boundaries with her more than once, but each time, it gets a little easier. John and I are closer than ever, and I'm finally starting to feel like our home is truly ours. It's been a learning process, but I'm proud of the progress we've made. I've realized that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family, and that it's important to prioritize our marriage. I know that Diane will always be a part of our lives, and I'm okay with that. But I've learned that it's important to stand up for myself and for my relationship. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. Subscribe and like for more videos.